We can't take a vote, but I think there's people on the way here, and we can certainly hear bills. I'll do the invocation since I haven't asked anybody in advance. We could all pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this day you've given us and for how good you've been to us. We ask your continued wisdom in all that we do, that we could do things that would glorify and honor you. We ask all this in your name. Amen. So since this is higher ed and I got thrown over here, a little bit of history. I think it was 92, maybe some of the history majors, I was science, knows this better than me, but I think it was 1992 when Ross Perot was a third-party candidate. And he ran for office, and they introduced a military guy, which I can't remember his name, but was his VP candidate. And the first thing, Stockdale. So the first thing he said when they brought him up, he said, "Why am I here?" That's how I feel right now. Why am I here? I don't know what happened, but apparently the vice chairman and the chairman have to be in other places, and so here I am. I've got my own finance committee to chair at 4 o'clock, but we'll see what we can get done here. So we've got Representative Petra, if you want to come forward. Yeah, right, yeah. Is he here today for his bill? I'm not doing that for him too, sorry. Representative Gaines. They may all still be on the floor, I don't know. Who's doing it? Okay, you're doing that for him? Are you doing that for him in his place? Okay, well, come forward then.
Okay.
We'll hear House Bill 185.
Y'all have heard it before. We made some changes.
And give us your bill number and your LC number that you're working off of.
All right, thank you, sir. I'm glad you know what you're doing. We're on LC 500831S.
All right, that's the one in my folder, so
we're good.
I think we're good. So tell us what your bill does.
All right. This bill deals hostile foreign governments are actively working to undermine our nation. The FBI reports that Chinese government, for example, is engaged in ongoing patterns of stealing intellectual property from U.S. universities and companies engaged in spying on Chinese students study here and funding campus programs, which are now shuttered. The Confucius Institute, designed to spread Chinese Marxist philosophy on campuses. And over the past 4 years, the Chinese government or those acting on behalf have provided millions of dollars to Georgia's top research universities, especially Emory and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, for example, has received in excess of $4 million since 2020 to partner with Chinese University to create a campus in mainland China. Given the FBI's report, a reasonable person would have to ask whether those generous donations are instead part of our larger efforts to infiltrate our universities and to steal U.S. technology. Also, the Wall Street Journal reported with former Secretary Betty DeVos also noted that most of the policymaker donations from hostile nations were a black hole to those solutions, and the solution is clear: greater transparency and accountability, and that's really what this is about. When we did our last hearing, if you look at page 1 on line 13, is foreign adversaries is a statement that is made by the U.S. Department of Commerce that is countries that we are not in, how to say, favored nations with. And what we did, we have listed those specifically going from lines 14 all the way through 20. It had been asked, one of the things is, could we not just say, as stated by the Department of Commerce, but there's some issues that there legally that we cannot. So what we're doing is naming the ones that are currently in place, and we went ahead and named those, and that came from our last meeting that people wanted to have them listed specifically. If you look on page 2, starting in line 28, it talks about funding, gifts, donations, and what's going on, but the meat of it goes to line 35, is such reports, and this would be required of the universities. They are to report the amount of funding, the type of funding, how it was given, a detailed description of the government and entity and the individuals providing the funding, including name and address of such government and the entities or individuals, a copy of any contract, agreement, or memorandum or understanding associated with the funding. details regarding the purpose of the funding and indicating whether the funding was a one-time event or a part of a series of payments. And the purpose is to really do this, is to take those countries when they give us money, to know where it's going, what it's being used for. And I think this is that we need to realize that not everyone is our friend, and that we need to be in a protective mode for our universities, especially because we open up a lot of doors of our technology that doesn't need to go to China without being checked.
All right,
You want to-
we've heard this bill before, so
Yes.
we need to be pretty short on comments, I know, but go ahead quickly.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I want to say that when I used to do a lot of speaking, and every time that I would introduce myself, I would show a clip of that Stockdale thing going, "Who am I and why am I here?" It's
Yeah.
hilarious. I'm happy to answer any questions about the bill. I think Senator Harvin mentioned it just perfectly, which is that we are simply, this is a transparency bill so that we know that if a designated hostile foreign country that we know is against the United States, if they're trying to donate money to our universities, that we know what's coming in, we know where it's coming from, and we know for what purpose it's being used.
All right, any quick comments from the committee? Senator Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be quick. I think it's a wonderful piece of legislation, but on line 31, I believe it's through like 35, it says the report's only going to be available to the governor and the chairperson of higher education. Would you be okay with adding an amendment that any member of higher education shall be made available of that report upon request?
I would have no problems with that, and I don't know if Ledge Council can fix that for us.
I'm pretty sure the chairman would provide that information to all the committee members. But,
Not all chairmen like me, Mr. Chairman.
all right, Senator Beach.
No, I'd just echo, Mr. Chairman, what you said. I think it only needs to go to the chairman, and then the chairman can just get us the information we need to get. I would also say I like this bill a lot. As you know, I've been talking about China for over 2.5 years, about them buying our agriculture land, buying our land near military bases, and we need to be watching this in our higher ed and our technology, because they want to own our technology, they want to own our food supply, and we've just got to watch that. We do have enemies.
And I would totally agree with you. One of the things I think we need to do that this bill does not do is we need to look at the students that come from those countries and look at the technology and the information that's available to them, because that's another source of knowing what's going on and what we're letting
All right,
get out.
well, we have had the hearing on this already. We just fine-tuned some language on it. So the floor is open for motion. Go ahead.
Motion to pass.
Got a motion, do pass. Is there a second? Second from Chairman Hickman down there on the end in the wrong spot. Any other discussion? Sure. Yeah, what's your number? 14. Okay.
I'd just like to make a motion for an amendment on line 33 to include any member of the Higher Education Committee.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? All right, the amendment fails for lack of a second. So we go back to the original motion. That is the substitute to House Bill 185 LC 500831S. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. I will be more than happy to let the chairman take back over. You got to go back over there?
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chair. And
I almost got out of here. All right, is Representative Huddleston here? Yes, sir. Would you come on up, please? You've got the State Veterinary Education Student Loan Forgiveness Program. Provide some limits. That is HB 1274, and tell us your LC number so that we make sure we're working off the same one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the committee. Yes, so this is House Bill 1274. It'll be LC 460801.
I'm flipping it. All right, looks good to me. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, this is a veterinary tuition assistance bill. This bill was established in 2016. Basically, when it was established, it was a one-year program. And some of the changes that we had made is basically we've changed it to a 3-year program and gone from $20,000 to $25,000 per student per year for that 3 years. A couple other changes that were made. Basically, within this program, the veterinary students had to be required to work 20 hours a week in the large food animal industry. Part of that was basically it was within counties of 30,000 population and below. So what we've looked at doing is basically going to 50,000 and below, and basically with that, that way it would actually impact 118 counties within the state that these veterinarians can work there 20 hours a week serving these rural communities. What brought forth this was a conversation back in the summer that we saw a dire need of large animal food industry vets within the state. So basically, by having this program and creating a little more of an incentivizer, making it a 3-year program, because basically they was having to apply each year for 3 years, and they may be eligible for year 1, but they may not get year 2. So basically this right here creates that more of incentive, but having the 118 counties, it allows to serve more of rural Georgia. So basically that veterinarian may have a mixed practice and basically can live and serve in the urban areas, but then also it allows them to serve in those 118 other counties, basically in rural community. A lot of times we've heard our Commissioner of Agriculture talk about food security as national security. So basically with this right here, like I said, we just seen a dire need of the large animal food industry vets, and hopefully being a 3-year program, our I guess forward thinking is hopefully in about 3 years we can make a great impact within the state, having this program incentivized a little bit to really get those large food animal vets out there. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions of the committee? And I'll make a shameless plug here and say that my niece's husband and her are in the military together in Frankfurt. Though when I say niece's daughter, that makes me sound really old. But she got accepted last week in the Georgia Veterinary School program. So
Congratulations.
we're excited for her with a full scholarship to boot. Senator Beach?
Yeah, thank you for bringing this. This is a good bill. And do we have a shortage of veterinarians? And I know when I was trying to pass horse racing, I was told we didn't have a lot of big animal veterinarians in the state of Georgia for for horses and big, larger animals.
Correct. Basically, like I said, yes, I would say yes, there is a shortage for large animal vets, large animal food industry vets, and like you said, I've heard a lot of folks that's owned equine has had the same instance of not being able to get a vet when time of need. One of the examples, I'm from Carroll County, and one of the examples is. We have 38 veterinarians in Carroll County, but it's all small animal practices. Part of this program also allows, if you've been serving less than 10 years, you can be a graduating student or serving less than 10 years. That may allow a 5th-year veterinarian in practice say, hey, I'll be willing to serve and get some tuition assistance by working that 20 hours a week. So yes, sir.
So can I follow up on that question?
Certainly.
One of my cities in my district is the city of Milton. It's part of the metro area, but it's horse country, and there's a lot of horses and hunter jumpers, and they're training a lot of horses. So would they qualify for this, or not? Or would this be just for rural Georgia?
No, sir. They would qualify. This is a statewide program.
Okay.
So basically, right, those and the thing about what you're seeing a few of, but we just don't have enough of, is basically mobile vets. So basically, you get to thinking from Milton. I mean, they could be a veterinarian serving in Carroll County, but have a mobile aspect, and he'd be able to come and serve the horse industry over in your part of it, but it's statewide.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other questions before we turn this into a horse racing bill?
It's a horse race.
And we welcome Senator Chuck Payne here, and since you're here, maybe I can leave. I don't know, but we're glad to have you here. We had
Secretary of the Community.
yeah. we were hurting for members. If there's no other questions, we'll take a motion at this time.
I'll make the motion to pass.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, or if there's not any discussion, that is, then all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? We've got one opposed. Your motion carries.
Hey, thank you.
And who is your sponsor in the Senate?
Senator Bo Hatchett
All right.
will be carrying it.
You probably did okay with that then. Sometimes we give people a hard time, but that's not a bad choice.
All right, thank y'all very much.
All right, thanks. Okay. Okay. All right, Senator Estevez, you want to come forward with what you've got?
185, and that one was 74?
Your own, I think.
It might
What's-
be flipped.
Oh, it's flipped on here. Never mind. Go ahead there.
I don't think that
Can you hear me?
microphone works.
There we go.
Okay.
It's somebody's dyslexic because it's the one on the wrong side up here. I think. I don't know. But
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you. It's good to see you on this committee as chair. I'm used to seeing you at the Finance Committee, which I'll see you in a couple hours.
there, yeah.
To my colleagues, it's an honor to present this bill to you, SB 476. And I think that this is a bill that would help advance workforce development in this state by leveraging hardworking residents that live here and love this great state. I'd like to especially thank Chairman Hickman for scheduling this bill for a hearing. I think it's a big deal. It's a big deal for this body to talk about this very important issue. But it's also important for our community to hear that we are doing all that we can to ensure full workforce participation in this state and ensure that all of our residents are living to their full potential and contributing to this great state. I'll be providing a brief overview of the issue at hand and then walk you through the bill and obviously entertain any questions. And I'm sure there will be other speakers who will speak on related details to SB 476. I'm sure you have repeatedly heard that we have a workforce issue in this state. For every Georgian that is looking for a job, there are 3 open positions. And based on what the Chambers of Commerce have told us, this issue will only get worse as Georgia continues to grow and its population continues to decline, the growth population inside the state. Some of the findings, for example, with the Atlanta Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce says, with the declining population growth, lower importation of talent into the state, and lower college completion rates, a concerted effort is needed to develop skills-based workforce with training and certifications necessary to meet Georgia's ever-growing job demand. Not only that, but the Chamber of Commerce found that the gap between supply of conferred degrees and certifications of job postings that match those degrees is persistently high. For most industries, the gap continues to increase. So clearly there's an issue with workforce, and one of the issues is that we don't have enough people to fill the demands that all the great industries are bringing to this state. What this bill does is helps address that issue by tapping into our immigrant population that is in this state and is investing in this state today. In fact, there are over 500,000 foreign-born residents that are not citizens already working in Georgia that are above 16, the age of 16. 20% of them, according to the Annie Casey Foundation and the Vera Institute, 20% of them fall in the category of brain waste. I wouldn't necessarily categorize it that way, but brain waste, where they're underemployed, their skills, due to low education attainment and as a result underutilized. That's about 131,000 workers that could be better trained and afforded an opportunity to improve not only their own educational and living standards, but also contribute to a better Georgia. Moving forward, we have an opportunity to provide a path for children that are foreign born yet able to legally work in this state to access higher education as a path for workforce participation. Out of 23,000 children born of a foreign mom in Georgia per year, we know that approximately 88% are U.S. citizens. So there's also an added interest in ensuring that we are doing what we can to provide this community a better education. Based,
Mr. Chairman, can you say that again? 33,000, 88%? Can you run that?
out of 23,000 children born to a foreign mom in Georgia per year, approximately 88% are U.S. citizens. Based on these current trends, we estimate that this bill would benefit at least 4,000 children under the age of 16 that are not U.S. born citizens yet qualify to legally work in the United States and in this state and in this state. Let me say that again. We estimate that at least 4,000 children under the age of 16 would qualify under this bill to receive a great education, but also legally work in Georgia. So let me walk you through this bill. What it does is that it allows residents of this state who are not citizens, but are legally authorized to work in Georgia to attend a Georgia university or technical college and pay in-state tuition, as long as they meet the following requirements. 1, they have to graduate with a diploma or state-approved high school equivalency diploma in Georgia. 2, they would have had to attend a Georgia high school for at least 3 years in order to obtain that diploma. 3, as I mentioned before, they have to be legally authorized to work in this state. And 4, they could not have been convicted of a felony or a high and aggravated misdemeanor or 3 misdemeanors of any kind, and does not pose a risk to our national security or public safety. As long as they meet those qualifications, they would be able to pay in-state tuition and attend a technical school or university in the state. Now, colleagues, this is not something that is unusual. It's not something that is unique. This bill is modeled after legislation that has passed in nearly 25 states. And this specific language was taken from language in the state of Florida, where they allow non-citizens to have in-state tuition to many of their institutions. So this is something that I'd argue, if it's good for other states like Florida, like Texas, like New Mexico, like Utah, if it's good for those states, then it's certainly good for the great state of Georgia. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions? Senator Beach.
Besides the 4 things you listed about a high school diploma and attending for 3 years of high school and not having a felony, have you thought about adding a 5th one to talk about they'd have to stay in the state of Georgia for 2 years and work? I mean, if we're going to educate them, we don't want them to go to Tennessee or Alabama. We want them to stay here in Georgia. Would you, down the road, would you accept any kind of amendment on adding them to stay?
Well, we're not having a vote today.
Okay. But have you thought about that?
Yeah,
Senator, because I do think if we're going to invest and let them get in-state tuition and not have to pay the out-of-state tuition, that they should have some commitment to Georgia, in my opinion, to stay here. And if you really are trying to solve a workforce issue, then we want them to stay here and work.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly would love to talk to you more about that. I had not thought about it before, but do believe that we want folks staying here and contributing to our state. So I'd certainly be open to talking to you about that as we move forward.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this bill forward. I think it's something that needs addressing. It doesn't look like it's going to get addressed in this session. We unfortunately are also at the mercy of a federal system, and I think there's bipartisan blame to go around on that has not dealt with this issue. You know, we've got people, I personally think the asylum is a little bit too easy, but at the same time, when we're taking 6 or 7 years to even find out if they qualify or not, that's bad as well. But we do need to have the highest and best use of the people in this state and make use of them. And as you know, I talked about my niece and her husband that's in the military over there. I know when he was in Afghanistan, there's people over there that we brought over here because they helped. He said their job was to keep me alive, and he is very grateful to what they did. And we certainly, when we bring them over here, because of their service to the United States, need to allow them to get education and be the most productive they can for people. So this is an issue that I think the state needs to deal with. Appreciate you bringing this bill forward. I've got one mic on here. Number 4, who is that?
Mr. Chairman, item number 4. Thank you. Thank you for bringing the bill, Senator Estivez. And it's been an issue, I think, facing our state for some years now, and it's couldn't be a more appropriate time to grapple with it and move forward. Another aspect of this is that students who are the in-state tuition versus the out-of-state tuition, there's an extreme difference in those two numbers. I don't know if you know what they are, but it's a huge leap from in-state tuition to out-of-state tuition. Isn't that correct?
That's right, and I believe that someone will be speaking to that here in a second. But it could be the difference that prevents them from even going to college because they can't afford the $20,000 plus price difference between someone who's in state and someone who's out of state.
All right.
Well, just one more point, and that is that we've already invested in these students in their high school education. I mean, this requires a number of years of high schooling here in the state. So we've already invested in these potential new members of the workforce. Isn't that right? So it's to leave them then barred by the high cost of out-of-state tuition. We're really walking away from an investment that we've already made with our public dollars.
That's right. And I'd also say that it would also help what we've seen around colleges and universities. I know we tend to think about the big colleges and the big universities, UGA, Georgia Tech, Kennesaw State, but there are many others across this state that want these students to attend because they need seats to be filled with people who want to learn. And what's holding them back from attending these smaller colleges and universities is the fact that they would have to pay out-of-state tuition, and they just simply can't afford that.
All right. Well, let's go to Senator Payne here because we're going to run out of time, and I know people want to speak.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for bringing this bill, and I know I see my friend Representative Carpenter back there, and I know he's been working on this on the House, and this is really the first discussion we've had about this issue on the Senate side, so I just want to say thank you for starting that discussion. Many of the things I'm from Dalton, and Dalton now is majority Latino. And I explained to people, I said, you know, the kids that I was a juvenile probation officer for 30 years, worked with young people even after they were in the early 20s. And these young men and young women, I said, if you met them, you go into one of our high schools, especially, you know, these kids, English is their primary language. I mean, they speak it better. And, you know, Spanish has become their secondary language, but yet they're still are in that realm that they don't have the documentation, you know, so they're deemed as Georgians and Americans in every capacity except for that. And so I just think that this is a great discussion we need to have and start on this side of the Capitol.
All right, we're going to go ahead to the speakers, and I'm going to have to keep you to 2 minutes or else the other speakers aren't going to be able to speak. So Jennifer Lee, I think you're up first here. If you want to come up, you can stay there, I think.
Yeah.
Let her.
Thank you, Chairman Huffstetler, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Lee, and I'm the Policy Director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta. I just wanted to thank you for hearing this bill. This is an issue that affects a lot of communities in Georgia, and Asian American communities, like other communities in Georgia, highly value education. And this bill is about access to education. We believe that all Georgia youth, including those without legal status, deserve access to a high quality and affordable education in this state. I'd very quickly like to share the story of a Korean American woman I spoke to recently. She couldn't be here today, but asked me to share her story. She moved to Duluth when she was 6 and has lived there for more than 23 years. And she describes her upbringing as very humble, a lot of financial stress and uncertainty due to her family's legal status. And like many other young people in her situation, she didn't even know that she lacked legal status until she was a teenager. She applied for DACA when it became available and started thinking about college, and her aspirations were always to go to college and to provide for her family. She wanted to attend college in Georgia, but due to the state's policies, she did end up in Florida instead. And reflecting on her experience, she said, "I want to make the most of the opportunities that I've had. I've worked hard to be where I am today, to be an educated person that gives back to the community." So again, this bill is about access to education. And giving Georgia youth equal opportunity to access education, we believe, is the right thing to do. So we thank you very much for this hearing and for your consideration, and we just hope this is the start of a larger conversation about how we can make education more affordable for all Georgians. Thank you.
For your comments. Tanya Prado.
Good afternoon, members of the Higher Education Committee. My name is Tanya Prado, and I'm from Woodford County. I'm a senior majoring in political science and a DACA recipient. Today, I urge your support for Senate Bill 476, a crucial bill for expanding in-state tuition to certain non-citizens such as DACA recipients. Out of all DACA recipients, only a quarter are currently enrolled in higher education. The primary cause preventing DACA recipients from pursuing a college degree is the financial burden of an out-of-state tuition. Like many DACA recipients, I have faced the daunting reality of financial constraints. Each semester presents the daunting burden of nearly $10,000 in tuition fees, 3 times more than the regular in-state tuition, and amounting to roughly $30,000 annually. This staggering amount is far beyond my family's financial capabilities, forcing me to balance a full-time job alongside my full-time course load. Nonetheless, the challenges faced by DACA recipients extend beyond tuition fees, as daily living expenses pose an additional burden. This makes it difficult to prioritize education while juggling financial responsibilities. As a result, many DACA recipients must defer their educational aspirations due to the unmanageable cost of out-of-state tuition. Expanding in-state tuition to include DACA recipients is not just a matter of fairness, but it's an investment in our state's future. Expanding access to education could substantially increase enrollment among DACA recipients in Georgia, leading to a higher college degree attainment rate. This, in turn, would bolster Georgia's workforce and strengthen our economy. Lastly, I share my personal journey as a testament to resilience and determination. Despite the significant barriers, I've maintained a 3.8 GPA while balancing a full-time job and school schedule. My aspirations to attend law school post-graduation speaks to the potential of each DACA recipient, yet the cost of out-of-state tuition continues to be a significant barrier for many. By supporting Senate Bill 476, we affirm our commitment to equity, opportunity, and the collective prosperity of all Georgians. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Oh, what high school? I went to Dalton High School.
All right. Catamount, huh?
Yes.
All right. Alberto Ferragrino, maybe not be saying that right, but.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of this committee. My name is Alberto Ferragrino, and I am a lead organizer with CASA, a community organization that serves and empowers our working class community members, our immigrant, Black and brown folks here in the state of Georgia. But I'm also here to share a little bit about my personal story as well. I have been a long-time resident of Georgia since I arrived here when I was 2 years old in 1998. I went through Nesbitt Elementary, Alfred Elementary, Pinckneyville Middle School, Sweetwater Middle School, and ultimately graduated with honors at Berkmar High School. So this state has already invested all of its entirety of its public education into me and thousands of others, right? Unfortunately, it was around high school that I did learn that I was ineligible for in-state tuition, and it wasn't until I applied for DACA that I thought I had a bit more hope. But speaking to my high school's counselors, to scholarship institutions, their recommendation was that currently Georgia did not allow for in-state tuition, and I would have better pathways in other states. So I had to look at other states to turn towards college. Having my parents, instilled letting me know that I should take advantage of the education that America provides. I full-heartedly believe that, and I did that every day when I went to school. And so I ended up going to college for 2 years in California with some financial assistance, which was still not enough because my priority would have been to have stayed here in Georgia. It was already expensive to have to travel between Georgia and California in between spring break, winter break, and the summers. So it was already unaffordable. I had to stop going to college, and when I came back to Georgia, I wasn't able to finish. I went to a couple of semesters at Georgia Gwinnett College, which, as a senator and others have mentioned, currently, as a DACA recipient, I'm lawfully, legally allowed to work, but do not qualify for in-state tuition. So it's about 3 times the rate for in-state tuition, whereas I could have probably afforded Georgia Gwinnett College and finished to get my bachelor's degree. It was costing me, instead of about $3,000 per semester, about $7,000 per semester. I had to, in order to pursue that, because I really wanted to finish my bachelor's, I decided to take out a personal loan to fund my the rest of my semester, which I'm still currently paying off. So this bill would already invest in the talent and the students that we have already invested in, and it would maintain that investment for our workforce and keep that talent here for Georgia. Thank you.
And where'd you go to school in California?
What is that?
What school were you in California?
I went to Pomona College.
Pomona?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I used to live in Modesto for 5 years, so I spent a little time out there too and made it back over here.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Ashley, I think this is maybe Yono or the rate. It might be Young. I don't know, but there's no tell on the end there, so you ran out of ink or something.
Yeah, it did. I have my dad's signature.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. We've just heard some really powerful testimonies, so I'll just make this pretty brief, but thank you all again for this opportunity. Greetings to the chair and to the committee members. My name is Ashley Young. I'm an education policy analyst at Georgia Budget and Policy Institute, and I am in favor of SB 476 to provide in-state tuition for certain non-citizens as outlined in the bill. Georgia, along with 2 other states, unfortunately, Alabama and South Carolina, are considered prohibitive states that do not allow for in-state tuition for certain non-citizen students, and this prohibits consideration and also prohibits consideration for certain admission to certain public colleges. Within this subgroup of states, I do want to point out that 14.7% of students leave Alabama for college, 15.7% leave South Carolina for college, but in Georgia, that number is highest at 20% who leave the state of Georgia. This is problematic for 2 reasons, and Senator Orrick pointed this out, that Georgia loses an opportunity for the K-12 investment in these students, and maintaining prohibitive admission and tuition policies. As we know, students are more likely to begin their professional and working careers outside of Georgia if they are out of state. Lastly, it is clear that you all are looking for solutions to meet the demand for high workforce and particularly high demand career fields. Many bills sponsored in the legislature orbit around the issues of the workforce shortage, but rarely address the policy solutions that would allow for access to affordable post-secondary education for these populations of students who would best benefit them for the workforce and for higher education preparation. Lastly, I'll just ask that you all carefully consider SB 476 as a pathway to reduce the workforce shortage and allow deserving students, and again, the testimonies are just so powerful, but allowing these deserving students an opportunity to in-state tuition to Georgia's public post-secondary institutions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to probably not do too much in here, but I can get you at the end with time. We've got one more speaker. I want to get on Jamie. And it starts with an R. I can't read your writing, but tell us your name and who you're with.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jaime Rangel. I am the Regional Government Relations Director with Forward.us. We are a bipartisan organization that looks to break the political gridlock to find common sense solutions to our broken immigration system. I'm here to testify in favor of SB 476. I'm going to keep it very brief, but I do want to highlight a lot of on the investment portion of this bill. Our analysis shows that, in fact, if a student graduates from a technical school, the state receives back their investment within 4 years. If they graduate from a bachelor's degree, the state receives back their investment within 15 years through via higher paying jobs. So this is not something new. 24 states have this. Utah, Kansas, Florida, Texas, Kentucky, Nebraska, and Oklahoma all have a similar version. So I do want to leave here with an ask, and I ask that we continue having the conversation during the off season, and with the hopes that coming in next year we have a bipartisan bill. It be introduced. Every single bill has passed recently has been bipartisan, and my ask is we continue having the dialogue and start off strong next year. And definitely Senator Beach, as an organization here myself, we are definitely open to any amendments that you mentioned to ensure the talent stays here, which many students don't want to leave. They want to stay here. They want to have a family here. So thank you so much, and happy to be a resource to everyone in this committee.
Thanks for your comments, and I'll tell the senator here the same thing I told Representative Carpenter before, that I would sponsor his bill in the Senate, and so I'll certainly work with you this next year on getting something done. I do want to give, we're really tight on time, but let me, since Representative Carpenter's here and he's been a champion of this issue for several years, if you want to come up, some very brief comments.
Yeah, I appreciate you very much. Obviously, I wanted to bring a bill to this committee for about 5 years now, so you come however you get here, I guess. So I appreciate you having me. I think a couple of points of emphasis. Obviously, immigration is a hot topic issue, and we just have to figure out a way to break this conversation apart, because these people are legally allowed to work. And if that's the case, that means they're taxpayers in the state of Georgia. And if we agree that they're taxpayers, then we should agree that they should be able to pay a taxpayer rate. And this is not providing these individuals, if they graduated from our high schools, something that anybody in the United States that's a U.S. citizen can move to Georgia in a year and pay in-state tuition. So this is not providing them something that other U.S. citizens can't already obtain if they want to move to the great state of Georgia. They have had to have already been here at least 3 years with this legislation. So with that, I'll leave you with that, but I will say it's an important piece for this state. This state is diversifying, and I believe this bill addresses some diversification and says, look, we want these people to be educated so they can take care of their families instead of the state taking care of their families. So,
all right, thank you very much. Senator Beach, did you want to comment?
No, I'll ask her offline.
Okay.
I'll ask you a question offline about 20% that's leaving our state. I want to ask you on that.
Okay, great. You want to wrap it up for us here?
I'll wrap it up briefly by shouting out Representative Carpenter, because he certainly has inspired many of us, certainly inspired me to bring this bill on the Senate side, so that hopefully we can get some movement here at some point in a bipartisan manner. And I look forward to working with all of you. These stories that we heard today are not unique. There are thousands of students across Georgia, many of whom do not even attempt to go to college or technical school because of the cost. And we could change that, and it would be great for them, and it would be great for this great state. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate you bringing this bill. I do want to work with you, and I hope we can get something that will work and get the highest and best use out of the people and also enrich their lives as well. So with that, I think three of us have meetings. We're supposed to be sitting across the street in 3 minutes. So we better get going. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.